Okay, let's dive right into this. We're going to explore a discovery that's, well, it's part history, part legend, and honestly, part pure mystery. Just picture this for a second. A library, but it's at the bottom of the ocean, and it's holding secrets way stranger than anything you'd find in a book. And this, right here, this is the image that kicks the whole thing off. This single kind of haunting line from the first report, it just captures the entire enigma perfectly. Think about it. Not dust, which is what you'd expect, right? The mark of time, of a place being forgotten. No, salt. The sea itself had completely claimed this place, and in doing so, preserved it in a way that is just, wow. Nobody could have seen that coming.
So with a story like this, where do you even start? Well, you've got to start with the facts, right? With the actual physical discovery of a structure that honestly, by all accounts, just shouldn't be there.
You know, the way it was first found, it sounds like something out of a movie, like a modern-day treasure hunt. You've got these divers out in some remote archipelago, and they just stumble upon this stone hull. But it's the little details that make you scratch your head. The shells were perfectly preserved, but they were coated in salt, not dust. And that little fact suggests something sudden, something catastrophic happened. So the big question is, was this place put there on purpose, or was it just the victim of some forgotten disaster?
And that is the question that just completely baffled the first people on the scene, and it's what's still driving the investigation today. I mean, a discovery this weird, it's not going to stay a secret for long. And pretty soon, the world of hard facts started crashing right into the world of folklore. I mean, it's not really a surprise, right? When you have a mystery this deep, you're going to look for answers anywhere you can. And the local legends, well, they offer a pretty compelling explanation. We're talking about these ancient stories, passed down for who knows how long, that talk about a super powerful figure, a lost golden age, and they hint that this underwater hall is way more than just some old ruin. And right at the heart of all these legends is one single figure, the Oracle. Now, we're not just talking about some fortune teller. This person was a political and spiritual powerhouse. The stories say their prophecies were so spot on, so influential, that they literally shaped the destiny of an entire federation of seafaring nations. Just try to imagine that kind of power in one person's hands. So here's the kicker. The legend gives us a full story from beginning to end. You have this powerful federation just thriving under the Oracle's guidance. Then bam. Some kind of cataclysm hits, the sea level rises, and both the Oracle and their sacred hall, which was basically a library of prophecies, are just gone. Lost to the sea, and they become the stuff of myth. It's an amazing story, right? Super captivating. But as cool as that legend is, you gotta ask, what does the science say? And that's where archaeology comes into the picture, and it offers a totally different take on this whole thing. So the archaeologists, they came at this with a whole different toolkit. They weren't looking at it as a myth. To them, it was a historical artifact. They just scoured the place, looking at the structure, the scripts, anything they could find for clues. And, well, what they found painted a very, very different picture. Okay, so let's put these two stories side by side. On one hand, you have the legend with its all-powerful oracle. On the other, archaeology suggests something more plausible, a Bronze Age alliance between a bunch of different powers. Those powerful prophecies? They might have just been really carefully negotiated treaties. And that seafaring federation? Maybe it was a series of ritual sites along the coast. Now, this is a big deal because it hints at a level of political savvy and diplomacy back in the Bronze Age that we're only just starting to wrap our heads around. So the scientific view doesn't say the place isn't important. It just reframes it. It makes it less about magic and more about impressive human politics. So, the archaeological takeaway is, yeah, it's less mystical, but honestly, it's just as fascinating. This wasn't the home of some demigod. It was probably more like a neutral meeting ground. Think of it like an ancient United Nations, where they held these complex rituals and hammered out political deals to keep the peace. It's a nice, tidy, logical explanation. But the sea wasn't finished talking. Right when it seemed like science had this thing figured out with a plausible, if maybe less romantic explanation, they found something else. Something inside the hall. And this new discovery, it didn't fit the legend of the Oracle, and it didn't fit the theory of a political alliance either. You know, the conditions had to be just right for this to happen. These weird currents came through, shifted the silt on the seafloor, and just like that, something new was uncovered. There's this almost eerie, supernatural feeling to this part of the story. And what they found were these tablets. But these were different from anything else. They weren't treaties, they weren't prophecies. They were fragments of a story that had been completely, totally erased from history, and was about to add a whole new mind-bending layer to this entire mystery. And this
This is the real heart of it. The tablets tell the story of a city that suffered a fate, honestly worse than just being destroyed. It was completely erased from memory. We're talking about an entire community that somehow, impossibly, forgot its own name, its own identity, before it just vanished.
This line from the report is just wow. It's so poetic and so devastating. It speaks to this incredibly profound total loss. No records, no one left to tell the tale, not even a name to remember. The only things that saw this city exist and then disappear were the tides and the weather.
So, where does all this leave us? We've got the initial discovery, we've got the legend, we've got the scientific theory, and now we've got this riddle written on stone tablets found at the bottom of the ocean. It's a lot to take in.
Let's break it down. What do we actually know for sure? Well, we know a submerged stone hall exists. We know it's from the Bronze Age, and we know it has these fragmented tablets inside. But for every single thing we know, a whole new set of questions pops up. What was this place really for? A library? A temple? Who was this oracle, if they even existed? And the one that really gets me, what was the name of that forgotten city?
And it's these questions, the ones that just stick with you, that make this whole thing so captivating. It's like a puzzle, where every new piece you find doesn't fill in the picture. It makes the picture bigger. It hints at an entire world that we've completely lost. And it kind of makes you wonder, how much of our own history is actually solid fact, and how much is just the story that managed to survive?
In the end, all the evidence is on the table, but the final chapter is still unwritten. So what do you think? Was this a place of magic, of high-stakes politics, or maybe a place of a sorrow so deep it literally erased a city from history? The salted sea is keeping its secrets, and that just leaves us to wonder, what do you believe lies beneath?